The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv, and we're already cranked up here.
Yeah, we're running about 15 minutes late.
We apologize. We were talking about if they found Charlie on the MTA yet, but they haven't. So I don't know. You got anything that we want to lead with, or we want to go right into the MBTA?
I had led it with a couple of things over the weekend flush, which I think is important. I think it's important that people know that we do have ballot questions coming up, as we brought up.
Oh, absolutely. And one of them wasn't in the booklet, as you pointed out.
Yep, one of them's not in the book because they quote-unquote missed the deadline. And, of course, the utility increases, which is important. And one of the things that none of the candidates are talking about, which is really bothering me, because I'm wondering why Jeff Deal isn't talking about it yet. Maybe he's going to. Maybe he's got a big campaign coming out on it. But Maura Healey was the one who fought to keep the natural gas pipelines, 2 of them, out of Massachusetts, which would have increased our supply. But now we don't have it. And they're blaming it on the Ukraine. Well, we don't get our natural gas from the Ukraine. So
the Ukraine doesn't get their gas from the Ukraine. They get it from Russia.
That's right. So, we have to really start looking at it. But, a 64% increase in utility costs. And if you're in Fall River, you're lucky if you're part of the aggregate program, because your actual costs won't go up. It's the distribution costs that go up.
Still paying
all those fees. Yeah, all those fees go up.
And I don't know how they're going to do it. Not with the recession we're having. No. I was watching some reports this morning about how people are running up credit card debts to survive. And now, of course, they've increased the credit card debt up to like 21%.
Right.
And these people are digging holes they're never going to get out of. And they said two out of 3 people are living paycheck to paycheck, and they can't live on their paycheck. They're not even living on it. Now they're going into the credit card debt again. They're seeing credit card debt escalate to a point that it's ridiculous.
Which we saw in the past. In 2008, we saw that we saw the fall of the real estate market. We saw people increase bankruptcies because they were living on their credit cards. And that's what's going to happen now. We're looking at the potential of living off our credit cards. I mean, I've got a couple of credit cards in my wallet, and let me tell you something. I don't want to use them. Well,
you can't. I mean, if you can't pay it off at the next month, with these interest rates, it's nuts.
Right.
It's crazy. I mean,
exactly.
But sometimes you have to, like when you rent a car, but you normally try to pay it at the
But even car rentals now, 100 and something to 400 something a day.
Oh, I know.
It's ridiculous.
And flying and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to see it. You're going to see this economy is going to. I mean, it's already the stock market crashed at its lowest point yesterday. Again, and things are not going good. Brandon is walking around in delusionary land. And the country he's fiddling while the country burns. And it's crazy. But while we're on misinformation, and they don't tell you, but as you said, I don't know how people are going to, they can't heat their house. They can't pay for electricity. I mean, they want you to buy an electric car, and they just jacked up the electric
Exactly.
rates. It's like, that's now. What's going to happen once everybody has to have electric cars? They're going to go, oh, we got a monopoly. We can charge them anything they want. And then they showed lines, I think in California, 3 to 4 hours to get to the charging station.
It takes that long to charge a vehicle.
I know, and then it takes you another 3 hours to charge it.
Just get there.
So you're looking at 6 hours on a good day.
Yeah.
But this is nuts. But first of all, let me correct something that our mayor said on the radio again. He said so many things that were wrong. He said that Freetown and Lakeville were not in transit authorities, and they are. Just for the record, you can look it up. I'm not going to go over it. Lakeville is in CERTA. and
No, Lakeville is in Gatra.
I'm sorry, Lakeville, Freetown, because Freetown's right over there.
Yeah.
Freetown Fire. Yeah, I know those Freetown Lake. I get those suburbs mixed up sometimes. Lakeville is in
Gatra.
which is the
Greater Attleboro Taunton Regional Transit
Authority. So they are in it. They are in a transit authority, and Freetown is in CERTA. So again, misinformation. So when he says to the best of my knowledge, he again proves he doesn't have much knowledge. So we got that little correction right.
Well, one of the interesting things I found out when I was looking at this, Middleborough, which is an MBTA community, obviously, because that's the Middleborough Lakeville train station there, which we're going to connect with, is part of a regional transit authority. And guess what? They're paying.
Yeah.
Well, so obviously there's something wrong with the system.
Well, and it's going to get worse. They're
That's
going to
right.
pay more because we know the condition that the MBTA is in financially. They're looking at between a 250 million to a it might be billion, but to 450 million debt next year. As he said, they're falling off the precipice. They're going to go off the cliff, as the director said. So
I think they're the only governmental body, that can run in deficit.
yeah, no, well, and not only that,
Because, as a city, we can't run in the deficit.
I know. Well, that's the problem with this entity. This is see, that's the point we really got to talk about and impress on the people. This is basically a government unto itself.
It's a little fiefdom.
Because that's right. It's a government within governments. Wherever they go, they have sole and exclusive right to do anything they want, and by anything I mean anything.
Maybe they should call the director a king.
I'm gonna read a couple of little excerpts from Massachusetts General Law 161A, which is the Massachusetts Bay, Transit Authority law. This is subsection M of section 3, in case you want to look it up. Little excerpt. To grant such easements over any real property held by the authority as will not, in a judgment of the authority, unduly interfere with the operation of its mass transportation facilities. So they can basically take an easement through your property, even if you don't want them to.
That's right.
If you're in that radius, you have no legal recourse. It's like when the city or the state or the government takes things by eminent domain, they don't care. It's like, I don't care if you want to keep your house. I don't care if you don't want to give me an easement. We're taking it because we are the government, and they are truly the government. And here's another nice little section Q. This one bothers me because you know how I am about Constitution.
Yep.
To me, this is fundamentally admitting that this is violation to me of the Constitution. This is why Newton told them to go bang their ankles when they tried to say we're not going to pull permits. We're going to do anything we want. And he said, no, you're not. We're going to control how Newton develops Newton because they can afford it. Because they can afford to lose the state aid.
That's right.
That they'll pull. Fall River can't. But when we get this, we're going to be consistent with the Constitution and the laws of the Commonwealth. And this is the thing that disturbs me. And I'll get into it after I get through it. The authority. Now, they just talked about the Constitution. But now the authority shall have such other powers, including the power to buy, sell, lease, pledge, and otherwise deal with real and personal property as may be necessary or incident to the carrying out of the foregoing powers and the accomplishment of the purposes of this chapter, which is to have the MBTA do anything it wants. That's the purpose of that chapter. But when they start out consistent with the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I find this law, this section of this law, in direct violation of the Constitution. Because if I remember correctly, part of the first Article 4 says that the people of the Commonwealth have the right to self-governance.
That's right.
Not the MBTA. And if I remember correctly, it says that part of the first Article 5 says that all magistrates in government are our substitutes and agents and answerable to us. Yet this law says the MBTA is not answerable to anybody for real or personal property. That's another violation of our constitutional rights. We elect the government in this city, and that government then creates zoning boards, building departments that issue permits. And when we get in the MBTA, all that's gone for that radius. They are in total control. They have absolute control of the community. And we were just having a conversation before the show about, oh, I don't know if that's possible. Well, there's the law. There's the law. And I think it's absolutely, this is insane. I mean, the MBTA is fundamentally like it's like Red China. They just do anything they want. You know, you get into the authority, and they have absolute power to do one thing, to do as it says in here. For the accomplishment of the purposes of this chapter. In other words, to do whatever will benefit the MBTA, not the people of the community that are in the MBTA, the communities.
Well, you know, we've been talking about the redevelopment of what happens around the MBTA and how there's special legislation regarding it. Now, I'm looking here, and it looks like it's a half a mile, and I think I said a mile earlier, so I was mistaken there. It's a half a mile. And one of the things that it shows you is a developer just submitted plans for towers close to the JFK UMass MBTA station for 1.56 million square feet.
That's a lot of square feet.
That's a lot of square feet. And guess what? It's a mixed-use development. And they can do it.
Yeah.
They can do it. And you have no say. Can you imagine if this was in Arlington or Andover or Newton, and they said, we're going to build 1.56 million square feet over there, 16-foot tower, 60-foot high tower, 60-unit high, whatever, and too bad, we're doing it.
But they can do it.
And they can do it.
And you're right.
Right.
And as you said, but there was also, ironically enough, and all these things are available on certain Facebook pages if you'd like to do Facebook. All these newspaper articles. There was a newspaper article about an individual who owned a business, and the MBTA basically was going to do what it wanted with his business, and he's objecting, and basically they told him, we don't care. You can do anything you want. We have the right to do anything we want. And they also have the right to change all their formulas on how they get money if they're in a deficit. If you read the law, this 161A, the purpose of that law is to give them absolute power to spend as much as it takes to keep the MBTA alive. So now they're in a massive deficit, which newspaper articles have said it's going to take decades and billions of dollars.
Right.
And another article said even the feds can't bail them out. Right. So, and what disturbs me, this is all available. It's all available. The news article, but the people in Fall River are being
bamboozled.
They're being they're being lied to. Not only they're being lied to. When the mayor gets on her and says we're not going to pay a penny, to the best of my knowledge, we're not going to pay a penny now. But after we get the authority, and after the authority reconfigures all their computations to get more money because they're in a hole, someday down the line, we are going to be paying money, and that debt is going to continue to go up. Correct. Because the MBTA will not be solvent for ever, probably, but we know for decades, and this is from the guy who wrote, there's an article, the individual who wrote the report on that said that was the guy who wrote the report in 2008 for Deval Patrick, the governor, the then governor. And he said the MBTA is a shambles. It's gonna go. It's tanking, and it's going to be in so much debt. It's going to be.
Well, what's interesting is Brian Pearson, when he used to work as a legislative aide, he said he saw all of those reports, and all those reports showed that the most effective and cost-effective way to bring the train to Fall River was along the Stoughton line, okay, which would cut off the the Middleborough Lakeville and have a split off there, but directly from, and it would be the shortest route as well. And he said they kept saying that, but people kept fighting for it to go through Middleborough Lakeville, and that's how we got that. But back to the zoning requirements, because this came up again before our show with our station manager, and it's governed under the Massachusetts Department of Community Housing and Urban Community Development, DHCD. And it's Mass General Law, Section 3A of General Law 40A, okay? And here's what it includes. The new law requires that an MBTA community shall have at least one zoning district of reasonable size in which multifamily housing is permitted as of right and meets other criteria set forth in the statute. Minimum gross density of 15 units per acre, located not more than half a mile from a commuter rail station, subway station, ferry terminal, or bus station, and no age restrictions and suitable for families with children. This was on December 15, 2021, and this release was from Charlie Baker, who wanted this done. So on August 10th, they sent it out to the communities, like Fall River, to have a say. What they wanted, what they didn't want, what they thought was good, what they thought was bad about the law, and the final regulations. I don't know if Fall River said anything.
We never heard it.
We never heard anything
Nobody
about it.
heard it.
Nobody heard.
Nobody.
And again, this is what I keep saying.
Just
What
like-
do we
just
have
like-
to hide?
This is going to be phase 2. We never heard of phase 1.
Right.
How did they manage to start phase 1 without a ballot question to see if we wanted to start phase 1? That's another question that has to be asked and answered. Why did they manage to appropriate money for phase 1? So they went up there and said, oh, by the way, we haven't asked the people if they want the damn MBTA.
Right.
And we don't know, so we better not start until we have this ballot. But here we are today, and they're gonna use the same excuse they always do. CJ, you know that I love it. Oh, we got to do it now because
We already spent the money.
We already spent the money.
Yeah.
I mean, so we got to do it. No, you don't. You know, why don't you pay out of your pocket for authorizing it, and dig up the track and go scrap it, and the taxpayers can get the scrap money. So, I mean, this is the whole problem. We have a government that doesn't remember that they work for us. They work for the developers. Can you see the MBTA? It should be the MDTA. You know, the Massachusetts Developers Transit.
Yeah.
Bay Transit Authority.
Well, here we go. Under Mass General Law 161A, and you'll notice we keep referencing Mass General Law 161A. That's because that is what governs the MBTA. Under Section 1 of the MBTA, an MBTA community is defined by reference to that section, one of 14 cities and towns that initially hosted MBTA service. One of the 51 cities and towns that also host MBTA service but joined later. Other served communities that abut a city or town that hosts MBTA service, or a municipality that has been added to the MBTA under Mass General Law, Chapter 161A, Section 6, or in accordance with any special law relative to the area constituting the authority. In total, currently 175 MBTA communities are subject to the new requirements of Section 3A of Mass General Law 40A. So, there you go. They've already done this across the state. Once we become an MBTA community, we lose our authority over zoning. Not that our zoning board of appeals is any good, because they constantly destroy neighborhoods. But what goes in there, what type of buildings go in, and they have to make them multi-residential units.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing. How much money are we losing? Permitting.
Right.
We're going to have to provide fire protection. We have, the building inspectors have to go inspect these buildings for compliance, or they're supposed to. Yet we don't have any say in these matters.
Just think about the impact on the school systems, because these have to be for families as well. They can't say, oh no, we're only going to do it for adults. They have to be unrestricted for age.
You notice there's no reference in that law at all, even though every politician, with the exception of the people in Fall River, have identified affordable housing as the biggest crisis facing Massachusetts.
Correct.
You don't see in that law. It just talks about units and families. It doesn't talk about affordable units. It just talks about units. And these developers are all drooling. You know, they wanted to be able to say, look, don't worry about it. We control the entire waterfront now. And we can do anything we want with it.
And we're already seeing that happen.
Yeah.
We're already seeing that happen. And remember, the remainder of Route 79 is going to come down, and that's going to become a boulevard. And there's going to be 10 parcels of land, or 10 acres of land, or something along that line, that's going to be available for development, for businesses. Mm-hmm. That's what they want it for, businesses. But if these developers come and say, oh no, it's within a half a mile of the T, I want to put a 3-unit building. I want to put a mixed-use building. Can't stop them.
That's right.
You can't stop them. Now, you ready for the justification for this?
Yeah, okay.
Why is multifamily zoning near transit and in neighboring communities important? Massachusetts is in a housing crisis. What has everyone been saying, right?
That's right.
The Massachusetts is among the highest and fastest growing home prices and rents of any state in the nation. Rising costs have dramatically increased financial pressures on low and middle income families, forcing them to sacrifice other priorities in order to pay housing costs. High housing costs are a primary driver of homelessness. The high costs are a disadvantage as we compete economically against peer states. The risk of future job growth moving outside Massachusetts is rising due to the high cost of living. So, Paul doesn't want affordable housing. He wants market rate housing. Market rate housing is higher rates.
Kenny will not even talk about market. About
the
affordable
Bristol
housing.
County Economic Development Consultants won't even talk about it. We're already saying we've got a housing shortage. We've already saying that we've got housing prices which are too high for low and moderate income people to afford. So, because we have low and moderate income people who can't afford it, guess what? We're going to put all market rate housing into these areas.
Let them go to Russia, or let them move out of the city. Where are they going to move? We're going to have a tent city. Listen, the other problem is this is like the epitome of disinformation and misinformation. We heard on the radio again, the cheerleaders, oh, they're going to jump on a train and go up to Boston to shop on the weekends. We're not even sure if we're going to have weekend service, number one.
Correct.
We're not even sure if we're going to have weekend service. And if we have weekday service, does anybody, I just looked it up again, the average per capita income in this city is $26,900, so 26. They're already saying through inflation, they're already losing $4,000 off the top.
Right.
So now you're down to 22, which is not even $2,000 a month. And then you got, you look at that and you go, how are you going to pay your rent when it's $2,000 a month?
Right.
Okay, so that's we're moving in. We are in a recession now. Even the ones that tried to say we're not, we are, and it's going to go deeper. Credit card debt is going up. I mean, these people, they're totally. They're either the biggest liars in the world, option A, or they're totally delusionary, option B, or they are option C, both. I'm going with option C. So, who's going to ride the train? The average Fall River person, who's going to ride the train? Number one, they're not going to go to Boston to shop. They can't afford to shop in Walmart anymore with this inflation. And they're looking at massive increases in their heat and electricity. There are going to be people that are going to be on the verge of freezing to death. They're already talking about trying to set up, mandating that these companies set up payment programs.
Right, and both National
Installment.
Grid, both National Grid and Liberty Utilities have what they call a budget plan.
Yep.
And what they do is they take your bills over the past 12 months, average them out, and that's what they charge you every month, so you know you have a fixed payment.
Yep.
And as you come to the end, if you've overpaid, you get a credit on your bill.
And if you're underpaid,
if you're underpaid, you got a higher payment.
Yeah. But the problem is, these people can't pay.
Right.
I just saw the report today. They're living on their credit cards. They have to supplement. They were living to paycheck to paycheck. Now the paycheck won't cover the stuff. And now they're trying to live on a credit card. We all know what happens when you do that.
That's right.
Because you can never, ever get out, especially with 21% interest.
Right. And what's happening now is, and I can say this from firsthand knowledge, the income levels for low-income energy assistance programs, okay, has been raised.
Yeah.
For a family of one, which there's a lot of retirees out there, which is one person or less, it's $43,800 a year.
That's a lot of money.
Okay, that's a lot of money for Fall River. So a lot of people, they predict about 80% of Fall River will qualify for this program. I've actually gotten school teachers that are retired from the Fall River public school system, school teachers who are on the low-income home energy assistance program. And they're retirees. So don't think that because they worked for the city, they're making out big bucks.
Well,
because you know how many people are living on less than $25,000 a year.
60%.
60%.
60% of the retirees.
So it's not all that great to be working for the city of Fall River.
Well, they made the fatal mistake of actually living long enough to maybe enjoy some of their retirement, but now they're in a condition. I mean, we have fixed income people, not only municipal retirees, but regular retirees. They say their 401ks crash. But we have people who have owned their house outright. They have been paid for decades, that are now looking at maybe losing their houses because they can't pay their heating bills, they can't pay their electric bill, and the taxes and fees are going up so much that on their income.
And that's why those people are being offered by the banks a reverse mortgage program, which means that while you're alive, you take money out of the equity of your home, and then when you die, the bank either gets your building or your family can pay off the debt that they gave you.
Tom Selleck gets it because he made a commercial for him.
There you go. Just so people know, an MBTA community that fails to comply with the section shall not be eligible for funds from the Housing Choice Initiative, the Local Capital Projects Fund, as established in 2 quadruple E of Chapter 29, or the MassWorks Infrastructure Program. MassWorks is what fixes our streets and sidewalks.
Yeah, so they said if you don't want to let us run everything like Newton did, because they can afford to lose that money, but we can't.
We can't.
So that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Welcome to authoritarian world, the
Right.
Massachusetts Bay Transit Authoritarian.
Well, I want to thank you all for watching. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday.